Welcome back, comrades. This is Gaming with Austin, and today we're on episode 24 of season 2 of the Utopian community series. Today, we're going to talk about child abuse and why it's wrong. Child abuse is basically... What is child abuse, anyway? To answer that, it's when you hurt a child or deny them their basic needs. When you deny your child a basic need, like denying your child their basic needs is called child neglect. And what I consider child abuse, flogging. Flogging your child, it doesn't matter if you're doing it to punish your child or not. Some methods of child discipline are considered child abuse. Which is something we do not tolerate, especially if you live in Europe. Like, if we were in Europe, corporal punishment's pretty rare over in Europe compared to here. More and more adults are going towards abolishing it altogether. I agree that we need to have it abolished on an international level. What's definitely a form of child abuse? Child murder. Child manslaughter is closer to neglect than murder. Manslaughter is closely related to neglect or negligence. There's also child sexual abuse, which is what child molesters do when they go to make child porn. Which is basically depicting children in a dirty manner. The consequences of making child porn for distribution: if you're caught distributing child porn, you might end up going to jail, depending on the the laws of the country. There are some well-known celebrities who are in jail because of it, like Subway spokesperson Jared Fogle. He was caught with dirty content involving a minor. Child pornography is depicting children in a pretty dirty manner. I'd compare child abuse to animal abuse. Child abuse was pretty common in the prison camps of Nazi Germany. But when done by parents, it was done by prison guards. It was a combination of physical and psychological abuse. Which is... Some of the methods of child abuse also hurt the mother too. Psychologically, because some of those methods involve tearing babies from their mothers just to be sent off to the gas chambers. Stuff like that happens all the time on factory farms. This is pretty sad. This is just sad. It's terrible when you're torn away from your mother right after you're born. Because you need your mother as an infant. Plants do respond to stimuli, but they do not feel pain. Numbing up someone's buttocks before torturing them will cause a lot of problems. If the bone breaks and you don't feel it, you're fucked. You're fucked. And corporal punishment. Sadly, it was pretty common in the Middle Ages to torture the crap out of children. Opinions have changed over the course of centuries. Will it be like 100 years from now? Will it be like 100 years from now? More countries would abolish corporal punishments. Would probably be the last countries to abolish corporal punishment. Singapore, Malaysia, and all these, a lot of Middle Eastern countries. The reason they would still use flogging They do it in accordance to Sharia law. They do it in accordance to Sharia law. I personally oppose the use of corporal punishment in all jurisdictions. Because I view it as assault. I see it as assault. Because children are more sensitive to pain than adults. They are extremely sensitive to pain compared to a healthy adult. The reason is that they're still developing pretty quickly. If they don't feel pain as much, they're more likely to die from injuries if they don't feel the pain. Which is why you gotta be careful around those who are paralyzed from their neck down. Because something as simple as a bone fracture for them can be a death sentence. Literal. This is pretty sad. Deliberately forcing your child to stay awake non-stop, like for 18 hours a day, I'd say it is child abuse. Both physical and psychological abuse. The real reason why freedom is really not free is that some our freedoms are restricted on an international. They're not just restricted on a federal level. Some of our freedoms are also restricted on an international level. Parents who don't punish their kids who don't give their kids consequences for their actions should, because I see having children as it should be a privilege. Those who let their children get away with whatever they want will end up losing that privilege. This is done to prevent cases, to reduce the likelihood of a child abuse case. Just like how sex offenders are not allowed to be near children. Or live near a school. Being near children is sort of a privilege. Same thing with having kids. For me, if I was to father a child, I wouldn't do it directly, I'd do it through sperm donation. Because what's more important? Trying to get my loving partner pregnant, or helping people have kids? In my opinion, I'd rather help people have kids if they're struggling to conceive. An example of such, the pregnant man. His birth name is actually Tracy Lagandino, whom they changed it, like I'm referring to Thomas Beatty. To Thomas Beatty. Like, whenever it goes to my gender, I'm more of a gender neutral person. I'm more of a gender neutral. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a chain reaction boom boom. I'm gonna make chain reaction boom boom. Well, the most crucial example of a perpetual war is a war between obligate carnivores and prey animals who are trying to run from those carnivores. It's basically a perpetual arms race to see who survives. Because different animals have different needs. We humans can adopt very strict low-calorie diets if we have to. I usually eat about 1,000 calories a day. Yet I'm not underweight. I know this is not... I know many of us would see as very unhealthy. But everybody's we all have different metabolic rates. An example of someone who eats 1,000 calories a day who becomes emaciated. There's a show on, called Super Skinny versus Super Size, where an underweight person swaps diets with a very overweight person for about a week. Usually, for me, I only eat as much as I need to. I only eat as much as needed. I personally oppose the use of corporal punishment in all jurisdictions. Domestic property is property you live on. All property should be public property. Like intangible property. Like all property that's immovable or large movable property like buses should be put under common ownership. Like the capital goods would be under common ownership. The goal of the People's Constitution in the United People's Republic, the goal of the Constitution is to limit the power of the government. To make sure there's no power struggle. Because remember what happened when there was the power struggle between Trotsky and Stalin? Yeah. There'd be a constitution to prevent a power struggle from happening. What's better to... Like the Constitution would be there to prevent a future power struggle. What is considered, physical torture means to beat the crap out of your child. Psychological torture means to throw insults at them to the point they end up going crazy as fuck. Physiological torture means to put your child, put that said animal on an unnatural diet. But you know, physiological abuse means to put an animal on a diet that is not natural for them. Like putting your cats on a vegan diet. Or feeding your cows meat and bone meal. Which is a pretty disgusting concoction. Ugh. Which led to mad cow disease. Another example of physiological abuse is also known as neglect. Which means that you're not meeting the one you're taking care of, you're not meeting their physiological needs. Since veganism is on the rise, some vegans are putting their cats on a vegan diet. I see it as just wrong. Cats can't go vegan. I'm fine with dogs going vegan. I'm fine with that, as long as their owner is careful. I'm fine with that. As long as their owner is very careful. Cats have a very high protein, cats do in fact have a very high requirement for protein. They're not meant to digest carbs. With their gut flora, they have very little to no gut flora because their stomach acid's too strong for it. Their strong gut acid means that you should never put them on a vegan. Means that they can't produce gut flora they need. To help process the carbohydrates from plants. They just don't have that physiology for that. Physiological abuse is also known as neglect. Which means you put your cat on the vegan diet, the cat dies. Starve an animal, the animal dies. And animal neglect is pretty common on factory farms. The problem with running a no-kill shelter is the cost of upkeep for all the animals. The main problem I have with no-kill shelters is the cost of upkeep. Which probably explains why kill shelters have a lot of good reviews. Usually. That's why kill shelters tend to usually have pretty good reviews compared to no kills. Some people think human leather's better than animal leather, but they are straight up wrong. That is murder. That is straight up murder. That is murder. There's an episode of Death Clock centered around that. Metalocalypse by Brendan Small. Like, that so-called special leather in death fashion was actually made of human skin. Which, near the end, Nathan fired the guy who was making the leather. You know what that means? Tough of your boy, scream, doesn't collect my blood ribs. That. It's a song by. The song's called Decency Defied by Cannibal Corpse. Which, by the way, is a pretty good death metal band. Like yesterday, I gave you tips on how to save everybody. I gave you, comrades, tips on how to save everybody in the event of a boom boom. Because there are people who die a hero. Like, in the world... Like, there was this one guy who died trying to save everybody in the World Trade Center on 9/11/2001. He died, but at the same time, he saved a lot more people at the same time. If it wasn't for his very heroic deed, all those people would have died without him. That guy who saved a lot of people in the World Trade Center, I'd call him a martyr. That guy should be respected at all costs, because he made the ultimate sacrifice to save everybody. He made the ultimate sacrifice. That sacrifice he made, that was the ultimate sacrifice. Wow. I'm gonna fix that up. That was a pretty big boom boom right here. It's pretty big. Now I'm fixing up that damage. you go into Auschwitz, if Nazi Germany still existed today, the prison camps would smell like a slaughterhouse. With going vegan, one thing you gotta do is respect nature at all costs. That was a pretty big boom boom I made right here. This Anyways, this is it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you like this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Subscribe for more. Share this with your comrades on social media. As always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to leave a like if you like this video. Dislike if you disliked it. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more, and peace out.